Welcome to another episode of Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is IK Grande, and if you've watched gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. So this is our second season. I don't know what to say about everything that's going on regarding the coronavirus outbreak and the pandemic and how people are living, but I'm very happy to introduce my first guest for season 2, who is a gay porn producer who does extreme fisting. Somebody that I worked with, so he's very close to my heart, at Dark Alley, and we also shot one of the most popular scenes that they ever did in Raw Fuck Club. My first guest for season 2 is a gay porn producer who specializes in extreme fisting, HungerFF, who I know as Ryan, insanely popular all over all the tube sites, social media, OnlyFans, Just for Fans, all that fun stuff. And I've also worked with him at Raw Fuck Club Dark Alley. So thank you so much for doing this. I absolutely appreciate it. No problem. So right off the bat, let's talk about what you've been doing for the past. Last time I saw you was what, 2018?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a minute.
Fuck, yeah, I just realized that's 2018, yeah.
December 2018.
Yeah, that's the last time I saw you.
Yeah. Even before that, because we shot Gangbang Proposal in June. I had not gone back to Fort Lauderdale at the time, since that time. I think July, September might have been the last time, and I think you were away on vacation, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, probably.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been a minute. How has life been?
It's been different.
Yeah?
It's been weird. It's been weird, different, but I mean, I have all the same complaints that everybody else does. So it's like, we're all sort of in it together. So like if I sit here and I'm just like, I say like, same quarantine, different day. It's like, it's like people ask you like, what's new, what's going on? It's like, not a whole lot. I mean, like, it's the same story as everybody else. I'm doing my best to like, it's hard to be a content producer now, and stay within what's acceptable of, I remember like, it's to not be eviscerated on social media for breaking quarantine or for filming with people like during quarantine. It's like you just have to be a little bit more diligent and careful now.
So that is happening. There are people who will like ostracize you or kind of say things because you are shooting during quarantine.
It was really bad in the beginning, and I didn't film for several months. I mean, like there was in the first few months of quarantine, I didn't film anything, and I'm used to working with, like we were just talking a little earlier about my lead time. Like I'm filming now for January/February of 2021, and for me it's it's September, and that little lead time is like it's nerve-wracking for me because I'm so used to working with like a 6 to 8 month lead time, like where I was so far ahead, but because I took those few months and didn't film anything, the window is getting smaller of the, and so my, OCD/anxiety, I'm like, fuck, like.
You're pretty good. If you have content up until, what you said, January, February, you're better than most people.
Yeah. So,
I don't know, I know studios that don't have that much content, so you're ahead of the game. You have exploded all over Twitter, all over Just for Fans, all over OnlyFans. When I met you,
it was in the baby phases.
Yeah, but you were already into fisting. You already enjoyed.
Oh yeah.
Getting fisted.
This is all brand new to me. I love when I get fisted by people. Sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, be careful! It's my first time." Like like be gentle, and they're like, I'm like, "Oh, okay." Oh wow, beginner's luck.
So now, tell me a little bit about. Okay, so for people who are listening, who don't know what fisting is, first and foremost, so what is fisting?
Okay, fisting is, if I was like quoting like the Wikipedia definition, it would be like the, putting your hand inside somebody's ass, or their, straight people do like fisting too, so it's like, in their ass or their, front hole, whatever, I mean, and I just take it anatomically or genetically or whatever, like my body has allowed me to like take it further than just the hand. So it's it's more like you said earlier, it's extreme fisting. It's Olympic level fisting.
Okay, so leading into that, when you say extreme fisting, what exactly is extreme fisting?
Okay, so anything, I mean, like what I do, I mean, like I can take it to. You've seen, everybody's seen.
I think one of the first times I was told, oh, well, this is our new casting director, and here he is. And I looked up your page on Twitter, and I saw it full on. And I'm comfortable with fisting. I've recorded it. I've done it with Matthias von Fistenberg all the time. And there's something about not being in the room and seeing it that is a little, like, it's jarring at first. But I've seen it. Like I said, I've seen almost everything. So I saw that, and I thought I had seen almost everything.
Well, that's the girl. Like, I got interviewed by a girl from Vice one time, and she was like, my boyfriend and I looked up your videos on the train, and she's like, I thought I had seen everything. And I was like, well,
yeah. Like, for instance, you do one thing, and we'll get into like terms and stuff, but I had known it as a rosebud.
Yeah.
But you go far beyond. It's like a cornucopia. It's like out of control.
It's the whole bouquet.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, when I look at it, sometimes it's art. I don't even think of it as like a sex thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know how you do it, but
I mean, like,
kudos.
I don't know either, but like, I know that since I started, like, I was more into I'm more into fisting. But what I've discovered is that the people that watch me are more into that. They're more into the rosebud, the prolapse, like the whole thing. So like that's what they are engaging more in. And like, I'll put out some amazing piece of content that I'm super proud of that doesn't really get a whole lot of traction, but I put out a 4-minute video of me pushing my hole out, and it gets like 100,000 views and makes me like all the money I need. Like, it's crazy. It's like, what I find to be the more interesting stuff doesn't necessarily always the fans or the viewers don't necessarily always agree with me.
Let's go back a little bit. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I grew up in the Midwest, and that's where I got introduced to fisting. I was 18 the first time I got fisted. Like, my fisting role model was Matthias von Fistenberg. And so, like,
what year was that? Do you mind if I ask? Because I'm curious if I was with them at the time.
It was probably, well, like, when the first time I got fisted was 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And so, you know, I had just known of him for, you know, he was one of the, like, what was it, 25th weekend?
Yes, I did that.
You edited that?
Oh God, yeah. That was my introduction to fisting, actually.
Okay.
And
so you edited that, did you add the dings?
Oh, of course. Okay. Absolutely. I made it to the point where we had a graphic designer at the time, and he's like, why do you have to add the dings? And there was, in the trailer, there's an explosion that brings up 25th Weekend. He's like, it just sounds like his ass exploded. I was like, listen, it's getting the job done.
Yeah.
But the dings were,
Or the siren with the double fisting.
Yeah, when you get double fisted. Holy fuck, that's amazing. I'm very happy to hear that, because a lot of times I thought I was just doing it for myself, and now
I loved it. I thought it was so, like, that was a formative piece of fisting porn for me. I didn't know that you edited that.
Yeah, that was I edited, when I got hired with them, they had just gotten back from Chicago, and they had all of this material, so we decided to make a part 1 and part 2. And I had never seen it, and in order to, I was kind of, not that I was kind of a prude, but I was very naive to a lot of things. And when I saw that, the only way I can get around, like, it's work, right? But it didn't even look like, it looked like he was kneading dough. Some people that were doing it, you know, like, they were so rough with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man, like, what is this doing to me? But, you know, like, because I didn't know. But eventually, you know, once I saw it in person, I was like, all right, well, it's not that bad. But it's one of those situations, like I told you, when I watch other people's fisting stuff, I don't know what's going on in the room. I don't know the energy. So this person can be really in pain, because there's a lot of them that we did that looks sex crimes. Did you see that one by any chance?
Oh my god, it's still like, that's the, okay, so getting to know Matt, like, I love her like a sister now, and so it's like, my porn collection was like, it's hard for me to beat off to somebody that I know like that well.
Yeah.
You know? But Sex Crimes is like on my favorites.
Yeah, Sex Crimes was rough.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there, it was shot, I forgot where, in Brazil, I think.
Yeah, and they clearly all shot it themselves, because he's in the mirrors and you can see him filming it. Like,
and there were parts where Eder von Fistenberg was his name at the
and
time.
he was like, you could tell he's
going through it. They put that gag in him, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And it was the first time that I had seen, you know, there was an accident with little poop.
Yeah, which made it into the
Projected
final
out.
cut.
Oh, it didn't it? Okay, good. I left it in there. I didn't know if it made it in or not, but
It makes it into the final cut.
oh fuck. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I have to watch it again. I remember watching it and kind of screaming from my desk, and I told when I first got hired there, I said I don't do animals, blood, shit. Not my thing. You know, I can understand a little bit of poop while you're shooting. But this was on another level. It was like projectile
shit.
Yeah. So I had a couple of my coworkers look at it as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's amazing that that's like so formatively you were watching Matthias von Fistenberg.
Yeah, I mean, so my first fisting movie that I ever saw was Matthew Paris, who's like, I still consider like the
he's
king.
out of control. Yeah.
Huh?
He's out
Matthew
of
Paris?
control. Oh yeah.
You know who he is? Okay.
Yeah.
So
He was in
like,
Cutmakers.
I remember going to my first Folsom, and I was 18, and I was standing in line. I was staying at the same hotel as Matthew Paris, and standing in line behind him and just being like, like,
come here.
Like, oh my God, it's the king. Like, it's like, and just being so shy and so nervous that, I had just gotten into porn, and nobody really knew who I was. Like, I had just filmed like my first big movie for Raging Stallion, and so the whole booth was about promoting that movie. And so like they brought me there to do that with them, and I was just like, I remember standing in line behind Matthew Paris and just being like, this guy is like the first, 25th Weekend was a formative movie for me, but Matthew
Your
Paris.
intro, your first. Yeah,
was to Matthew Paris, and so I was like, oh my God. I remember he had these big spiked shoulder pads on, and I was like, he's like, oh my God, the king. Like, it's like, he's like so crazy to me. And then fast forward 10 years, and I get a tweet from him, and I was like, what? Yeah. Like, Matthew Paris knows that I exist? Like, what the fuck? Like, it was nuts. It was crazy.
What was your first experience like having a fist in your ass? Just describe it in detail, because I know you remember.
I do remember. I remember having it on, well, video has always been like a part of my sex life, and so like, I remember we recorded it, and I've scoured like my old like laptops for that footage, because I have my first fist on video, and I remember Manhunt was really big, and so I got on Manhunt, and I remember searching for fisting and finding this. I've always had daddy issues, and so like, I had this guy, this big muscle like leather daddy that lived in like Novi, Michigan, and he had like a dungeon in his basement. So like 18-year-old me, I'm like, I'm so excited, like I'm gonna go, and like and so I went, and again, this is me just thinking that genetically or anatomically my body's maybe like a little bit different, but I got it on the first try. And so he was also like he was super experienced, and like it was a great first experience and first introduction to it, and then it just became like, it became my sex life, and it became not really so much a fetish anymore, and just I was never a load chaser. I was never like, like that was never like my thing, and so like I just was always about fisting, and so I filmed my first fisting video with Raging Stallion like the next year after.
When it came to sex though, like you, top, bottom, you did all that stuff?
Always a bottom.
But did you, how soon after being sexually active did you get into fisting?
I mean, I was 18, so I mean, I got fucked for the first time when I was 18 in college, and so, maybe like 6 months later, I remember the first guy that fucked me, he had a big fucking dick, and he was like, it's gonna hurt. And I was like,
you're like, oh yeah.
Really? Let's go. And so like, and I remember just thinking, I feel like this should hurt more, like the way he was preparing me for it, but I just loved it. I was just like, this is where it's at. This is like, because I've been jerking off to fisting porn now at that point, so I was like, my sex interests were always like maybe like a little bit, especially at that time, more extreme than what I think now. Like the age, like 18, 19-year-olds are commonly into fisting now, and so it's like, back then though, I was like a fucking, so my friend that I have a friend that I'm filming with here, that we grew up together in the same, same Michigan area, and we're around the same age, and so I remember there was a newspaper called Between the Lines that did like LGBT stories, and they featured me one time, and it was all about fisting, and I remember he and I went to the same school, and he was like, this guy's disgusting. Like, oh my god, he's so gross. Like, look at him. He's like getting fisted and blah blah blah. Well, now we're filming together tomorrow. So
really,
and he tells that story. He's like, yeah, he's like, I used to think he was so disgusting, but now I love fisting.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like because I was younger, and there's most of the guys that were into fisting in that time frame, like the porn that was porn was so different. Now it's like, everybody's, if you got a cell phone,
it's like the equivalent of like straight porn. After a woman's had basically everything, she's got to get double penetrated, and quadruple penetrated. And like just how far you can go.
Yeah, it's like the trajectory.
Yeah.
It was like somebody would start, fisting that was seen as the end of the career.
Mm-hmm. Your first scene was Raging Stallion. How was that? How was that experience being on set? How?
My first time doing fisting, or first time for my first scene in general?
Well, fisting, right?
Well, so like, I did one movie for Falcon that was like a really kind of like, they were trying to relaunch their road trip series, or it was Jock's Russian River or something. It was like a really quickie scene, and then as soon as that was done, I filmed with Raging Stallion, and they offered me the contract like right away. So I still started. I mean, like, I did the one scene for Falcon, but the Raging Stallions really were like 90% or 99% of like my initial run as RJ Danvers happened.
RJ, what was your name?
RJ Danvers.
RJ Danvers?
Danvers. So, Ryan James, my name,
okay.
And then Danvers was the last name. Did you see Captain Marvel?
Yes.
So Carol Danvers was my favorite superhero.
Really? Okay. Wow.
Back then, 10 years ago.
And
then fast forward, she's got a big movie in it. So she was my favorite, and so it was RJ Danvers, Ryan James Danvers. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You left porn for a while.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I had it just like it became like porn at that point. Like, this is my second rodeo, and it's like. And I see it happen to people on a regular basis where it swallows them.
Mm-hmm.
And so RJ Danvers kind of swallowed Ryan James at that point. And so I just needed to kind of like figure my shit out, and like kind of like, I drank my own Kool-Aid at that point. And so it was like, I was also 18, 19 years old with like, I was traveling and making money, and like my lifestyle was so different than everybody else that I knew. And so it just became overwhelming for me. And so I started, I kind of withdrew, and then I ran 3 comic shops in Fort Lauderdale for 8 years, and then at the end I was like, I'm gonna start making videos again. Like, I really like, I've always liked doing that, and I was single, and so HungerFF actually is sort of an ode to like one of the first guys I met on Manhunt, whose screen name was Hunger. And then
does he know that?
No. I mean, he does now. So, so it was kind of like, it was the guy who introduced me to porn. Like, he was a porn star, and he kind of was like, his screen name on Manhunt was Hunger. And so I was like, I just thought that was a hot name.
Yeah.
And so I just threw HungerFF on the
end. Well,
it
definitely, HungerFF kind of just visually for me, like, you want it. Like,
it's a double. It's to me. I mean, it's kind of it's a homage to my introduction to porn, but it's also like an evolution of like where, RJ Danvers was like kind of like the kid version of me, and now it's like 10 years later, I'm still doing it as. I don't really know anybody that's done that. That started off as one name and then evolved into like something different. So
there are a couple more that are escaping me, only because I want to talk about Matthias von Fistenberg.
Okay.
Because we, was our boss.
Yep.
At the time. So you grew up knowing his stuff. What was it like to meet him?
I was terrified.
And all his crazy, by the way. In a good way. Yeah.
What actually happened was his boyfriend reached out to me on X2. And I remember reading this message, and he's like, hey, my name is this, and I'm really interested in, my boyfriend, Matthias von Fistenberg, is interested in, meeting you, maybe working with you, and we're getting ready to start this new site. And I was like, what? Like, no way. Like, I still get starstruck and weird about stuff. Like, when I think, like I said earlier with Matthew Paris tweeting me, and like, Matthias von Fistenberg wants to meet me, like, what? Like, these are people that I grew up watching. And so, like, when he said that, I was like, oh my god, yes, like, of course, like, I'd love to meet. So we met in this little boutique hotel restaurant in South Beach when he came back, and they pitched the idea of Fist Alley to me.
Okay.
and if I wanted to be a part of that. And I was like, yeah, of course, like, oh my god, like this is amazing. But then, like I said, I mean, she became like a sister to me. Over working with her for years, like, you know, and getting to know and just being, you know, a part of his life. And it's like, there goes like 90% of my jerk off material. My spank bank's like practically empty now. So like,
and it's a crazy life. Tell me, it's a whirlwind. When you were working with him, you were working like you were personally assisting him, but also doing casting for Fist Alley and stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
So you got all of it.
I got the whole Matthias von Fissenberg experience.
And it is an experience. I'm gonna have him on the podcast too. We were gonna do it last year, but it just became, oh, you have to come over and see my place. I know if I go over and see his place, I'm gonna be there for 8 hours.
We all have a Matt impression.
Oh yeah. I know. What's your best Matt impression?
Sweetie darling, bring me the English tea biscuits. You know, the one that the Queen eats.
Yeah. Not to get too off topic, but I've never met somebody who is so like he's an instrumentalist, right? He's a classical instrumentalist who just happens to like getting one or two fists up his ass.
Yeah.
Do you play any instruments?
No, but I mean, like the dichotomy for me. I mean, like I like comic books, and I'm like just like I like video games and comic books and like little kids stuff. Like, like I just like I mean, before I got here, I went to the comic book store and picked up a bunch of new X-Men books.
The one over here on 40th?
Midtown.
Yeah.
Well, I just came in from DC yesterday, so like I went to the shop in DC yesterday, and yeah, it's just like I mean, like I like. There is a dichotomy with me where it's like I'm still into all the same nerd stuff that I was into when I was a kid, but I also love like I mean, you said 1 or 2. I mean, like I'm stopping at like 3. Maybe I'm shooting for 4 fists one day. So like,
so there's more.
There's room to grow.
So, what I wanted to ask you was going from meeting Matt and then. Not in a bad way, but this is my opinion, because I worked with Matt a lot, making fisting stuff. He is one of your influences with fisting, but you take it to a different level. Like, right now, you are your own producer, so you're producing your own stuff. What's that experience like for you? Because now you're doing both. You're in front of the camera, but you're also behind the scenes as well.
So everything for me is like I'm a control freak to a degree. So I mean like, I film everything myself. I set the shots up. I find my own. You know, I do casting for my own movies, and then I do all of the setup and the editing, timing the releases, everything, the distribution of it all. So I really enjoy the creative process of it. I know like a lot of people that do fan content, like they hate the editing process, and that's what the roadblock is for them. It's like I hear this so often. I have so much footage to edit. I have so much to edit. As soon as I'm done, like that night, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited because I get to do the edit, and like, I get off on that. It's super fun for me. So, yeah, I mean, I love producing my own stuff. I love like filming everything myself. I love like working for Dark Alley. Like there's a certain aesthetic that I feel like is required for mainstream or like mass consumed porn. It has to look like kind of polished, and it has to be. There's an aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then for me, like HungerFF is I said this earlier. Like I want it to look like you just kind of happen to be a fly on the wall in an actual authentic fisting experience. Like I want to show like the warm up, I mean, you know, I show poppers being used. I show at the end the cleanup experience. You know, like what is proper fisting etiquette as far as like at the end of a play scene. Like I said, I'm like, you don't just walk away and leave the bottom of the sling covered in lube. Like you wipe the bottom down and make sure they can get out of the sling okay, and everything's, you know, they're not like, you know, that there's. I want people their experiences to be validated by what they're seeing and when they're watching me.
Which I think they appreciate.
Yeah.
I think it's, that's why there's such an explosion of, you know, they call it fan content, but it really is porn. If you think about it, the money you're pulling in, the money people are pulling in now is competitive to major studios that now find themselves having to compete with a single model on a website making all of their own content.
Yeah.
Which could have been avoided if they just paid their models better and treated them better. But That's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the day when I was making, like, I mean, my contract for Raging Stallion was worth a lot of money back then. And it was like, now that kind of money is not paid to anybody. It was like, and I was a brand new face, and I was making really good money at 18 years old. And so I was like, now it's like the rates are so different.
Yeah.
And I tell people when they're thinking like, oh, I'm thinking about getting into porn, I'm like, well, are you ready to hustle? Because it's like, the studios don't make the porn stars anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The porn stars have to make themselves. Like, they
Yeah.
have to put in all the work, all the time, all the effort. It's like, you put in what you get out. You get out what you put in.
With that in mind, how you mentioned being on Howard Stern twice.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did you go across your page?
So that was a really cool experience, and that was a moment where I was like, oh my god, okay, so fisting is like getting some mainstream play now. And I'll circle back to Howard Stern. There's a Janelle Monáe song that just came out where she's like, I'm baking with my Crisco, just watching where my fists go.
Really?
Like the turntable song. There's a fisting reference in
I gotta listen
turntable.
to it.
So
Jeez.
there's like
Janelle Monáe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You never know.
Yeah, exactly. So Howard Stern, they came to Fist Fest a couple years ago, and Wolfie from Howard Stern like was interviewing people, and he's like, who do I need to talk to here? That's in, and everybody's like, you can talk to Ryan, talk to Ryan, talk to Ryan. So they came over to me, and they're like, we want to know, like, what's fisting? So it's just sort of basic fisting questions, and then they are like, can we get some audio of you getting fisted? So my friend, I have a friend, Verse FFLA, that like narrated the whole thing. So like
narration.
Narrated. So Wolfie's asking, so like, what's happening now? Well, the top is lubing up his bicep, and and then at one point he's like, don't break her, I want that pussy next, or something like that. And they played that clip on how, and they held the microphone to my hole, and like recorded all these like.
Who was there? Was it Wolfie?
It was Wolfie.
So he put the microphone up to your hole.
Yeah. Have you listened to Howard Stern?
Oh, I love Howard Stern.
Okay, so Wolfie's in the room.
Okay.
Won't watch.
Okay, that's what I was curious
So he's
about.
got the microphone like this to me, and he's just like, they asked him, they're like, what is this? He's like, well, it smells like, what does that smell? It's poppers. So it's like, he's like, why am I feeling like this? Like, and so it was such an experience. It was really, he got the full experience. Yeah. And then a couple months later, no, they didn't air that for like a year. Because I guess Howard, like when he did finally air it, they're like, I've been tossing this back and forth, like I feel like this is too extreme, like I don't know what my audience, how you guys are going to respond to this. Jeez. And then the call-ins afterwards, because the big thing was they wanted to talk about my prolapse. That was like they went hard on that. And so the people that were calling in were just like, I am horrified, like I'll never be able to unhear this, and blah, blah, blah. I'll never be able to, the visual, and blah, blah. I looked him up on Twitter, and like the shit that, it was funny. But then they just called me back for, they did a segment on Fisters in Quarantine. And so they were like, they had me back on, and they were like asking me like, how are Fisters handling it? I'm like, well, I'm sure we've all gotten reacquainted with our toy collections, and like, it was cool. That was a moment for me where it was like holy shit, like their Howard Stern show. That's a big
yeah, that's insane, and that's a completely different audience.
Yeah.
Than somebody going out and looking. This is what I want, and they search for you. This is, you might have gotten some people that were just like, let's see, and then you have straight guys that like, sticking toys up their ass. Yeah. After that.
And then it was kind of, I realized the spread of that interview when Lady G and like the scandal.
Oh boy. Okay, so I just for listeners that haven't heard or don't know about this, there was a tweet that went out. Was it like June or July?
It was yeah.
Okay, so June or July on my Facebook profile or my news feed, Bill Maher had tweeted, "Does Lindsey Graham have a gay porn star problem?"
Yes.
And I opened that and I said, hold on a second. So Sean Harding had posted a tweet about Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
And you had responded.
And my tweet went just not as viral as his, but it was like, and honestly, like, I've known about Lindsey Graham for a long time.
Mhm.
If you're a hooker, you work in DC, you know about Lindsey Graham. And so
I would love to ask, I'm sure.
I'll say I've never been hired by him, and granted, everything I know is hearsay, but all of these guys, we're not lying to each other. And so it's like, we're not all going to lie to each other about the same guy, and not everybody's going to have the same story if it's a lie. And so, there was a lot of discussion about that, and so I've known about him for a long time, but I read Sean's tweet, and I was just like, girl, I'm like, we all know about that. Like, and so like, I was just not even really it was just a tweet that I made, and then I like put my phone down. And I didn't think anything of it, but then like my timeline is just exploding, or my replies are just exploding because that tweet got picked up just like Corey's or Sean's did. And so that but a lot of the replies to that were, oh my God, the guy from Howard Stern knew about Lindsey Graham. And that's how I knew. It's like, wow, like this story and that interview are being connected now. So it's
Lady G.
Lady G.
I don't know, it's tough.
It's and it's like, and I guess as an outsider watching all of us talk about it, there's gonna be, doubt. There's gonna be doubters. But I mean, as somebody that's worked in that area, and being a casting director at Raw Fuck Club and Dark Alley, like, I got to become friendly with a porn stars that I wouldn't normally be friends with because of what I'm doing. Like, I just got to know a lot of like the big names, and we all were familiar with this person. And and so
he's not the first.
Yeah.
They're movie stars. They're all out there, and they all get found out eventually.
My favorite client when I worked in Detroit was this guy that I called Father Rimjob.
Oh my.
He was a priest that just hired me just to eat my ass.
Really?
And it was just like, you know what? I mean, like, everybody's got everybody's got needs, and so it's like, and he was, oh my God, he was like my favorite client.
I get what you're saying. The only thing that sucks about that whole situation is, the stance that they all take.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so hypocritical. I mean, I don't even think Lindsey Graham bats an eyelash or fake eyelashes. Granted, he's not going to probably say anything about it because that's kind of like...
I don't think he ever acknowledged it. They killed that story. And
I really feel like something's going to happen because, he's very close to losing that race.
Yeah.
It's very tight, but we'll see what happens. Who would you like to work with that you have not worked with?
Matthew Paris.
Matthew Paris, okay.
Oh my God.
And you mentioned talking to him, so you might...
Yeah, so he lives in the south of France, and so every time I've gone to France, I'm like, oh, like... I had a tweet earlier this year that I had this idea that there was like people, like old school fisting porn stars that I wanted to like bring out of retirement to film with me. That like people like I filmed with Mark Everett, who is like an icon, fisting icon. I filmed with Matt. Sean Harris, who is like one of my favorites. He lives in Palm, cut that out. But Sean Harris is one of my favorites. So I wanted to work with him. Matthew Paris, Ashley Ryder. I mean, there's like a lot of like the kind of icons that I've like looked up to or jerked off to or whatever. But if I could pull some of these guys out of retirement to film with me, like, I have a huge crush on Sean Harris. So like, he would be like probably top of my list. Him and Matthew Paris.
All right.
So
let's talk about that in the future.
Okay.
Possibly doing something together. I would love to like direct you.
Oh my God.
In something.
Yeah,
and the best part about you is I don't really need to direct. You kind of already know what you're doing. So it would just be me in the room.
Fly on the wall.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add? Anything you want to promote that you're working on now?
I guess as far as there's my fan pages and stuff, like I'm like really proud of them, and so like I update them twice a week, every Monday, every Thursday, at noon, and so it's like those are kind of my babies, and so it's like if you sign up to those, like I see a lot of fan pages. Like we were talking about this earlier, you can kind of tell who's gonna make it and who's gonna break, and so I've never missed an update and I don't plan on it, and so it's like I'm really consistent. I'm filming, like I said, for 2021 now, and so it's like people like, sign up for 3-month memberships, sign up for 6-month memberships. Like those are, and I'm always putting out there's new stuff on Xtube and, AEPN. Like there's always something. I try to just make it available and easily accessible. Whatever platform you like, I want to be available for them there.
Cool.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
I have to thank you. I know I've taken up a good amount of your time. Thank you so much for.
I love this.
I
is
know.
great.
Yeah. I
It's so
think
good to
people
see you.
will. I know you too. It's been a minute. Hopefully we'll work together in the future.
Yeah.
On a project, any kind of project. Say hi to Matt for me if you do end up seeing him.
I'll see him in an hour.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll wrap it up. Really quickly. So you've already put out all of your social media and your tube sites and all that stuff. I'll make sure to include that in our bio when we're talking. Guys, if you like what you're listening to, by all means, click subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can watch this on YouTube, and click subscribe. All that fun stuff. My name is IK Grande. I've been your host. My guest, HungerFF, and yeah, if you've watched gay porn in the past 12 years, 13 years, if you've watched gay porn, period, I've definitely helped you get off. And so has he.
Yeah.
Cheers.